Afternoon, everyone. How are we? Oh, Shaquille O'Neal. Steve.
Yeah, it's amazing what you just find in boxes of absolute nothingness. I found a bunch of business ideas that I had when I was 13. Man, I'd be doing pretty well. Have a listen to my 13-year-old self, I tell you.
Just while we're waiting for everyone to join us, you didn't happen to bump into the big man while he was in Australia, or?
I did not, but ironically, after I then see, oh, Shaq's in town. Who's he in town for? Oh, he's doing something for some co-working space. Who owns that? Oh, that was the guy I cheated off in math class in year 12. Like, Jesus, again, I hang out with the one. Here I am hanging out with you, fine people. But obviously, these guys have gone on to do, even more cool things. But each to their own. Everyone's got their own little wonderful thing that they bring to the world. Maybe mine is, regret.
Absolutely. We'll give it just a minute, Steve, if that's all right, so you can loosen up the vocal cords. People in the learning world tend to be quite busy, as you know. So we sometimes get some late additions to the party. I'm just going to mute everyone, if that's okay. Actually, most people are muted. Everyone is muted, apart from Layla. Sorry, Layla, I'm just going to mute you. I can't. Layla, if you could mute yourself.
Unmutable.
Oh, she's muted. Great, fantastic. Awesome. Hey, there's a 3-hour difference between us now, isn't there?
Yeah, it's definitely lunch and learn for us, but yeah, for you guys, it's like middle afternoon. That's probably knockoff, actually. If
us Kiwis never knock off, Steve. You know that.
Of course, yeah. No, fair. I take that back.
I know there's some Australians on the call as well, so I shouldn't say that too loud. Okay, we're 4 minutes in. I'm going to get started. We will have some late joiners, but that is all good. So thrilled to have Steve Corney this week as my guest on Chameleon Live. Welcome, Steve.
Hello.
Really, really appreciative of you taking a bunch of time out of your afternoon or lunchtime today. And of course, everyone on the call as well who's joining us. Great to see so many familiar faces and some new ones too. Really, really appreciate that. So Steve Corney is with an organisation, I believe you started it, Steve, Learn Awesome. That's right?
I just wanted to I just wanted the ability to choose whatever I either referred to myself as or who I worked for. So that's the beauty of starting your own thing. You get to choose.
And when did you kick this enterprise off?
Yeah, well, according to the Australian Taxation Office and ASIC, that was 2019. But Learn Awesome in some sort of iteration has been around for the last sort of 15 years.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, we've got a bunch of really good topics to chat about, discuss today, dig a little bit deeper on, and hopefully try and stump you on a few questions as well, if I can.
Please.
But just to kick things off, can you tell us a little bit more about Learn Awesome and I guess what makes you different, what you guys do, and what your space in the market is?
Yeah, well, it's all about finding your space, right? I think that's been my biggest learning over the last 15 years is that everyone's got a space, and if you try and fit into something that you're not, you're going to just feel this constant state of uncomfort or discomfort. So Learn Awesome, finally, I was able to articulate this pretty much straight off the bat, which is we're a proudly non-award-winning learning agency that helps people digitize their knowledge so they can do rad stuff. Like that's our elevator pitch. And what that really means is we're a learning agency. We build e-learning. We do face-to-face training. We do job aids. We do the whole stuff that everyone else sort of does. We just do it in our style, which is very Steve driven. Like it's really nice to be able to have something where I can inject my own personality, which is probably why I don't work for an employer or a big corporate or anything like that, but probably why we have such big impact and such positive impact, because we're coming in with, creativity, our style, and it doesn't work with everyone, but the people that we do work with, we find that they love the fact that we're learner focused, that we really, and we have one of our values on our website is learner first, invoice payer a close second. which is super important. And we'll always challenge and ask a lot of questions, but really want to understand and spend a lot of time in the problem diagnosis area, which we can all relate to, but going and having a chat to the end users and making sure that they dig what we're doing as well, because it's a trap to sort of just listen to the stakeholder who might be the boss, who might be completely disconnected, and go, yeah, this is the problem. And yeah, we found that spending a little bit of extra time there allowed us to get some really good results for our crew.
Awesome. And I want to dig into that a little bit deeper shortly around the learner-centric approach and I guess those measurable outcomes, if you will. But what's the Steve style? Obviously, I'm looking at you now, and you are, I can see some of your personality already coming through. I can see you're a Shaq fan in the background, and you're obviously into your illustration as well over your left shoulder. But is that right? Is that your illustration or?
Again, I just see so many cool Zoom, like I see all these influencers on LinkedIn and Zoom, and they've got these cool like backdrops. So I was like, yeah, I'll do something. But again, I don't have any artistic ability. So I have to go and ask our illustrator, hey, can you draw me some cool stuff? Or I have to ask permission. That's some client work that we did that they let me hang up on my wall and, be cultured.
Yeah, cool. So what is a, not to get, too focused on the output and the actual, the artifact or whatever you guys, design at the end, but what does it look like when your personality comes through and what you guys deliver?
Yeah, I guess it's a case of it's real. Like I look at it and I go, oh, I'd want to learn that stuff. And I think one of the things, or one of the lessons that I figured out pretty early on when I danced into the corporate space, and me going into the corporate space is an interesting adventure if you're into watching that sort of stuff. It's cool to see what happens. I remember we went into NAB's private wealth business, and we took a couple of designers in there to do this transformation project. And the CEO of JB Weir, in this case, Justin Greiner, he's now stepped down for whatever dodgy stuff he was into. But no, joke, Justin, I love the captain. He walked past and I just turned around and everyone's like, oh, Mr. Greiner, Justin, this, like, I just turned around and I go, oh my gosh, that's the captain. And he just laughed. I go, hey, I need to shoot a video with you. Have you got like 30 seconds? Because I imagine you'd be able to do something on the spot. And he's like, yep, come into this room. And I shot a 30-second video, which was a piece of content that we needed for one of our courses that we were building. And yeah, he was great. I got a few seconds with him, and it made me realize that even the CEO of NAB's private wealth is a human.
Very
and learners
reachable.
are human, and people are human, and people like humor. People like being connected with on their level. So I find that our superpower would be stakeholder engagement across all levels, being very, very human. People talk about human-centered design, but I just look at it and go, well, you're a human, I'm a human. What cool stuff are you watching on TV? What cool stuff do you do with your life? Whereas if we go over to the US, which I'm sure we'll talk about some of our clients over there, the first question that someone in the US will ask you is, what do you do for a living? What do you earn? Whereas Kiwis and Aussies, very similar. We get confused over there, which is great. We're usually like 6 or 7 questions in before we get to the what do you do for a living question. So, we as a culture are really good at connecting with humans. So we just take that to another level with what we do.
Yeah, I got asked that question on Saturday night. Actually, we were at a bit of a going away gig, and this guy came up to me who I'd never met. And he goes, "Oh, what do you do?" And he'd had a couple of drinks at the time, and I could see he was looking a bit. Had to be careful with my words, but I said, "Oh, I'm a dad," and he goes, "What?" And I was like, I'm a dad. That's what I do. And he goes, what do you do? And I could see where he was going with it, but I didn't go too much further down that rabbit hole. So talking about you touched on the States just now. So you guys have obviously got a presence over there, and pretty strong presence in AU, NZ as well. What sort of customers are you working with at the moment across those markets?
Look, we're proudly. My first business card at Learn Awesome was legend in his own lunchbox, because that's exactly what we are. Because if I allow myself for just a second to think that we are apex predators of the learning design world, it's absolutely not the case at all. We're privileged to work with some really cool people. So we just finished a project with Loan Market Group. They're like the Aussie home loans of mortgages. We built a virtual university for them. Again, super hands-on, super immersive, but yeah, just super, super cool to be entrusted with, their their process and their learning pathway for their brokers, which was amazing. So yeah, we've done some stuff there. We've played in the big bank sector. We've hung out with the Japanese Life Saving Association and helped lifeguards over in Japan like get better at what they do with communicating and supporting their volunteers. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's a mixed bag, but then we also get the privilege of working with really smart individuals. So this whole solopreneur education space is really interesting. So we have Dr. Kirsten Wolf, who's a fertility acupuncturist. She has decided that she wants to like upskill and uplift the fertility acupuncturist practitioner space by digitizing her, years of knowledge. So she just needed some help moving from face-to-face conferences into a hybrid model. And for us, that's a really bread and butter conversation to have. But the power and the reach that's now increased her ability by just by us using our knowledge, combining it with hers was like super valuable and a really cool thing to just do. They're the sort of conversations I like to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So you've touched on a couple of times this whole learner centric. And I know we hear that a lot, right? It's one of those, I feel sometimes overused cliches. You hear pivot and all that other sort of stuff. What does that look like for you though? Like, so and I think this is a really good point to touch on for the folks on the call today, because a lot of these people, Steve, that are on the call today are working client side, so they're in organizations, they're creating stuff for their own people.
Totally.
How where does the rubber hit the ground on that one for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think the whole concept of like the methodology and the theory of learning, you won't find me in those circles because we usually butt heads. And there's a great space for it, and I think there's absolute relevance there. But I think it's the application of the methodology and the models and the learning that sort of make the quality of the program or the success of the program. So an example would be for us to be learner centric. It would be it's like what's that, To Kill a Mockingbird, get into someone's skin and crawl around for a while, right? That was I think it was Boo or Atticus that said that in the book. But for us, it's like, okay, hey, here's our brief. You've got to design a insert program here, or this is the thing that you've got to do. This is the problem, blah, blah, blah. Cool. My next place to go is, hey, where do the people hang out that we're going to be teaching? Where are the consumers of this? I want to go talk to them. And I will literally and on my rolly chairs back in the day of the office, I would literally roll up to some analyst at NAB and go, hey, what do you think about training here? Does it suck? And like, I'll just like completely like dehumanize the whole, make it less in your face and just go, hey, tell me, like, what was the last program that you did? Was it good? What sucked about it? What was awesome about it? How do you want to consume this content? Hey, we've got this system rollout that's coming. I know that they're going to probably jam like 20 hours worth of training in your face, and they'll probably want to do it face to face. Do you want that? Like, how do you want to consume the content? And chances, like, especially with these young, smart, technologically savvy peeps, they said to me resoundingly, it's a piece of technology. We know how to use technology. Just give us a damn cheat sheet and let us figure it out ourselves. And if we need support, have support ready for us. So our entire 6-month, contract was around providing a really good support model on the back of a 1-page cheat sheet. It was the most engaging piece of learning I've ever created, but it won't, like, I would get laughed at if I went to like the ATD Awards and said, hey, this had 100% engagement rate. I want to submit this for an award. They'd laugh at me. They'd say, you're Casey Chambers. Like, for the Kiwis there, Casey Chambers had a famous song, Not Pretty Enough. That's exactly the story of Learn Awesome's life, is that our learning's not pretty enough to be considered for awards. But because we understood our audience and our learner by just having chats with them and letting them feel like they could trust us with the information, all we then have to do is deliver on what we've said we're going to do, which is, hey, you just want a cheat sheet? You got it, dude.
Yeah. And the ironic thing is, right, for you as the agency, we're not going to go into the whole commercial side of this too much, but
Sure.
the obvious thing is when I listen to that, I'm like, well, it was probably a much more cost-effective exercise for them, but it's cutting you guys off at the knees, potentially from a commercial standpoint.
Yeah, yes and no, right? But it builds trust and loyalty, which in 2022 are rare things. And when you show that you are humble and human, and you have frailty, and you're willing to just go, and I said this to the senior stakeholders, I'm like, listen, I could gouge your eyeballs out and charge you 6 figures for a storyline project that you will never be able to author, edit, or fix ever again. You'll pay us $1,000 a month for the rest of your life for us to fix this for you. Or why don't we just do like a real low tech cheat sheet? And you know what? Maybe in 6 months' time, when you have another problem, you'll call us. And sure enough,
Yeah,
that's paid
I do.
dividends. That's paid dividends time and time again, because I just can't sleep at night knowing that I've contributed to the e-learning authored graveyard of tools that just have been, 6 months, 12 months of electricity, human sweat, soul capital have been invested in something that just ticks a box and then gets shelved for all eternity. So it's nightmare fuel.
And you touched on an interesting point there, and we've chatted about this a couple of times, right? And because I think it's a value we hold quite dearly here at Chameleon, and it sort of resonates its way, in terms of how we're talking about the product now as well on the platform. But I've heard you talk about this concept a bit around teaching your clients how to fish. Yeah. And I know that's we all know what that means probably, but how does that play out in the world of Learn Awesome? Because
it's really good question. Look, it's a core value of ours, but it's also comes back to me. Like I had to figure out a lot of stuff myself as a teen going into adulthood. So it's always been something I like to do, learning. So it's no surprise that here I am. But what I can't, it sort of dovetails into the previous thing that we were talking about, is that there's this great mystery surrounding instructional design and learning design. Because if you go out to a dinner party and that someone asks you what you do and you say, I'm an instructional designer, I love watching their eyes glaze over or passing out when I've spent 20 minutes now just nerding out on them about what I actually do. But at the end of the day, you don't need, like, it's not hard to design learning. Like it's not a cloak and dagger mythical craft that I think some of us covet a little bit too hard. And I think it's that connection or investment that we have, because, the longer we're in something, the more precious and more value we give to it. So it's like, oh, I can't possibly show someone how to do what I do. It's going to devalue me. They're not going to want to work with me anymore. I'm going to lose business. And all this like negative and limiting beliefs start to kick in. But just like previously, if you teach someone how to do what you do, or if you teach someone how to self-serve or update their e-learning platform that they've invested a heap of money in with you, if they can like feel a little bit of empowerment, that builds no likability and trust, like the holy grail of marketing. But really, it's like trust and credibility is given to you, the teacher, because when you teach someone how to do something, it's the most valuable thing in terms of like familiarity and rememberability. So it's like, I would rather give money to someone who's taken the time and respected me enough to show me how to do something than someone who's like kept me out of the lurch and held me back. Now, there's times to do that too. So loan market, for example, and if Polly, if you're ever going to watch this, strap yourself in, dude. Here we come. I didn't want to give Polly access to the system until we'd finished building it, because I knew she'd break it. Sure enough, she's broken it 2 days into having access. And Matt Bibby, you it was a WordPress build, mate. So I've given access to a non-WordPress developer. I've given her the keys to the city, and she has gone and done exactly what I would do, which is let's just play with everything. Let's add all the possible things I could add to this. And so there's times where you don't, but at the same time, it's like, hey, let me show you how to change the text on the website. Let me show you how to add a blog post. Let me show you how to add a new course to the LMS. Similarly with tools now, they're getting easier and they're getting less complex to use, where you don't need to go and do a 8-week online course to learn how to use, Storyline or Evolve or Chameleon, or you can learn them via a couple of how-to videos and away you go. So yeah, we're very much about that. And we feel that it's better for us long-term to come in and go, hey, we could build this and hold your ransom, or we could like properly diagnose the problem, realize that we don't need to use the tool that we're biased against because we know we can hold you to ransom for it. We're going to use something like, hey, let's teach you how to use Chameleon, for example. And then as a result of that, you can then have a license and you can self-update, which saves you money. You can get empowered. You can fall in love with this thing called learning. And then when you have a problem, or you have something that's beyond your scope of ability, you then call us because we're the ones that showed you how to do it. And we have better conversations with those clients, because instead of going, oh, I need to do this low level task, it's, yeah, we've tried all this sort of stuff, but now we want to try and make it do this. How would you help us do that, Steve? And so we're having higher quality conversations. They're feeling more empowered. And then as a result of that, like, I would like to think in this like beautiful utopian world, we're lifting the bar that little bit further to challenging people to start creating. And then, as we all know, once you start creating stuff, then you start fixing it. Like it's like, as soon as you start getting in there too soon and start like granularly focusing on all these little things that your client might be doing wrong, instead of celebrating the fact that, hey, last week you couldn't create an e-learning authored thing that sat on your LMS. Now you can. Hey, it's a dog's breakfast, but tick. Well done. Next week, let's learn about visual design or something. Let's learn why you shouldn't use fluoro pink as a color on your thing. Well, I don't know. I like it. I like a bit of fluoro pink, but I mean, I would fail the WCAG 2.0, 3.0 accessibility guides. And I'm okay with that, because there's some very, very smart people who know how to fix that, and I will go to them.
I think you're right though, and I think we talk a lot about this at Chameleon, and amongst people like yourself as well, where there's always going to be a place for agencies like yourself, because there's organizations are always going to be wanting to push the barrier, and that's where folks like you and Matt come into play, because you guys are at the forefront of, and you should be. There's some that aren't. I'm not going to name any names, but you know what I mean? That's where they come to you for those solutions. And if we keep leveling folks up on this other more basic stuff, then happy days. The industry is going to rise as a whole, right? So
it takes a good character as well for me. So in my world, Matt's a legend, right? Matt, you're going to get picked on in this scenario because you're there, right? But there's two ways that I could approach Matt. I could go, Matt, you're a competitor. I'm not going to talk to you at all, because we both have stuff that we do with clients and it involves creating e-learning. I'm out. Or I could go, you know what? People are going to like Matt. People are going to like me. People are going to like potentially both of us. There could be an opportunity for us to team up. Now, that way, I would say that's maybe growth mindset. I don't know, something. There's a model there, I'm sure, that we could look at and talk about for hours, but we're not going to. But yeah, I think the more agencies realize that the pool is so big, there is so many fish or so many things that we can have impact over, where if we stop worrying about, oh, hey, I saw you pitched for this and we pitched for this, we can't talk about it. I used to find out who pitched for other work, and I'd go and message them and go, hey, how much did you charge for this? Because I reckon you're going to win. Or I'd turn it into like a little bit of a game. It's like, oh, we're pitching again for this gig. No, I'm not. I'm like, dude, I know you're pitching. They told me that there was a PhD candidate in learning in Melbourne. I know there's only 3 of you. And I asked the other 2. It's not them. It's you. Like, you just got to have a bit of fun and realize that, yeah, there's plenty of work out there for everyone. And the client benefits from us as agencies, us as learning professionals sharing ideas as well. Because then it further just reinforces the ability for us to stretch and grow. And everyone's got an opinion. A non-experienced 1 year out learning designer, or just get, and we're privileged to work with brand newbies as well in our mentoring program, which we'll talk about. But some of their ideas, even today, I was like, dang, that's a really good idea. But I could play the card. Oh, I've got 15 years experience. I'm an agency owner. Blah blah blah. I know best. Danger. Like that's where you start falling into the traps of some of the agencies who haven't evolved into 2022.
Yes, we'll move on from that, because we might start naming names. But anyhow, no, I love your perspective on it. It's so, and by the way, folks, if you got any questions for Steve, now's a great time to start chucking those in the old chat, because we've got him for another 20 minutes or so, and I'm going to give you Steve's details at the end if you want to reach out with him. Reach out to him, with any questions you've got. But keen to hear some more. We'll come back to that, Matt. Keen to hear some more about this, about LAMP. I'm not going to tell everyone the scoop and tell everyone what the acronym stands for, but what I will say is it's really cool what you've started here. And I know that it's gathering a bit of interest in the States with this sort of movement of folks into the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, Lamp, what a stroke of genius that was, where I just thought, learn awesome mentoring program. And I've done some, I think I created it at some point, and I've got it on camera where I figured like the penny dropped and I'm like, shit, that says Lamp. And then I start thinking about like Anchorman and Brick, who's like, I like Lamp. And it's like, there's so many like gifs and like memes that I could go on there. But yeah, one of the big things that I was noticing, and again, I like to, it's really cool that I'm not very good on the tools anymore. I'm really good at having the strategic conversations, the stakeholder engagement, the commercialization discussions. And then I've got very, very exceptional humans that I let them do their good stuff and I stay away from it. So much so that I had to show one of the mentees Rise the other day, and I was stumbling and bumbling, and I thought I probably need to go and join this mentoring program to learn how to be a better designer. But it's cool. So the thing that I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of people want to come and hang out with this wonderful world of instructional design, learning design, insert sexy title here. And it's cool. But then it opens up this dark chasm of, hey, you want to transition? I've got a program for that. And the program usually will teach you how to build something, the learning methodology, how to storyboard, how to do all the stuff that you need to do. And then it will come to a point where you have to, oh, hey, you need a portfolio to be able to be a freelancer. So, hey, why don't you create a portfolio piece on something that you're passionate about? And then they'll create it, they'll upload it, they'll talk about, like, you can tell the program that they've done based on the button that takes you to their learning artifact on their portfolio. So I could do it in a couple of seconds. I could go, yep, they've done that person's program, or they've done that person's program, because everyone's got their own little recipe, which is great. But real client, real experience, real endorsement, and the ability to have anecdotal project evidence when being interviewed were the gaps that I noticed in this area. So when I interview a potential learning designer, and I love non-instructional designers coming in to instructional design, because they haven't got any bad habits. They haven't got 20 years of building their way, and I have to unravel it. Whereas, I met one of my designers who's one of my best. They're an artist, a graphic artist. And I'm like, dang, you got some really cool work. Do you want me to show you how to make that come alive and impact people? And then I just taught them how to use the tools. They already got the design. As soon as it clicked, off to the races, and they're producing some really banging stuff. But yeah, the problem was, hey, we're having an interview. I noticed on your portfolio piece that's entitled How to Make Soup that, you built it in Storyline. Really cool. I saw how you did that. Hey, how did you manage the time restraints and the expectations of your stakeholders with respect to your tool selection and your build time? And then I watched them like fall to pieces in the interview, because they haven't got the answer, because they're the stakeholder, they're the boss, they're the subject matter expert, and they're the designer. So why I decided to create Lamp is because I didn't think anyone else could pull it off. One, because there's a lot of moving parts. It took me a while to figure it out. And two, now when my mentees that go through the program come out of that and they say, hey, why did you choose Storyline, or why did you choose Chameleon instead of this tool for this project? They can say, well, in the project meeting that I had with Steve and the other 6 designers that we had in the program, we talked about the audience and why the audience wouldn't want to consume a storyline variable driven file. We had 4 weeks to build it, so we didn't have time to create something that was detailed and we needed something that was mobile first, or looked really good on all devices. So straight away, I'm sitting there as the hiring manager going, dang, this person gets it. And for me, I don't care about the design skills then. I just care about the fact that they can critically think and evaluate and give me evidence about how they've applied their knowledge. So yeah, that's sort of like the genesis of the program. And then the program comes about where we've got a not-for-profit called the Life Skill Academy, who we've partnered with. And so the Life Skill Academy are going to one day, when they get to a level, or when we build their website, I think is the answer, they're going to give away all of the knowledge that they get built for them. And then we've donated Learn Awesome as an agency to build their services, because we love Life Skill Academy and we love life skill education. So we've created this they're not making any money from the learning that we build for them. We're not making any money from them as a client. So now it opens up this beautiful, ethical, wonderful, I can sleep at night world where I can go out to the market and say, hey, do you want to come and hang out with Learn Awesome for 4 weeks, get a bit of mentorship from us, come into our agency, build a project for the Life Skill Academy. So you'll actually get a brief from them. I'll project manage it with you. And, at the end of it, you've got a real project. You've got real anecdotal evidence that you can talk about. I'll endorse you because I've seen you work. I've worked alongside you. The Life Skill Academy will endorse you. And then you can put all that towards your, first gig or your next gig in the instructional design industry. Pretty cool. And like I said, it's taken a long time to get right, and I made sure I did the time to do it justice.
Yeah.
And the first, it's only been going for a couple of weeks. This cohort, September 19th, and it's been a really humbling experience, and it's also really cool to see glimpses of myself 15 years ago being green and entering the industry with this like hope and whimsicalness that it's going to be amazing. And then I have to sort of like manage my cynicism and my reality of my knowledge of the future that makes sure that they're battle tested, because it's not like anything else where, it's like, oh, that's really good job. Actually, I'm sorry. This is like, the client's not going to accept this. So we need to review it, and we need to get you and your skill set up to a point where we can submit this, or we need to review it, or you need to go away and develop your skills in X, Y, Z in order for us to do that as well. Yeah.
Kudos. What a cool initiative. So what sort of people are coming onto it, Steve? Like and you're running the cohort now, the September, that's in the States, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, it was just, I met a bunch of cool people in the States, and I started to see this transitioning teacher movement, and it's horrific over there. The quality that the teachers have to work in over there, it doesn't surprise me that they're leaving in droves, but these people aren't remunerated the way they should be. They're now having to work 2 jobs to be able to support their families and their lifestyles while teaching. They're being told what they can and can't teach from people that aren't decision makers in the education sector. So I thought this would be a cool way to help them get some skills and transition. So I've got a couple scattered around the world as well. I've got a guy in the UK. I got someone in Australia as well, but mostly in the US. But the program eventually won't be, just US centric. It'll just be wherever. We'll just run a cohort model every so often and let people come in and hang out with us, because it's a bit of effort. There's a bit of effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. Very, very, very cool. First of its kind I've heard about. So it's I was really keen to have a quick chat about that. We've got 10 minutes left, everyone. So if you want to ask a question, you can chuck your hand up and actually use your microphone, or you can type into the box as Matt has.
I've got the question. I'm ready.
Yeah. Really, this is a big one.
Marsh is here. Marsh is on the program. Hey, Marsh, it's late for you, dude. But thank you so much for coming. Marsha Kaufman is doctor. So I should say Dr. Marsha Kaufman.
Oh, she's, hey, Dr. Kaufman. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Superstar. She's one of the lampers, one of the lampies. So we caught up this morning for a cool little chat. So great to see you.
Wicked. Thanks for joining. And a big question from Matt. What's the deal with the banana? I'm assuming he's talking about the banana on the hat.
Talking about my profile? Yeah, you're talking about my profile shot. That was actually shot in the US, and we were at a good friend of mine's wake, and we were getting ready for karaoke, and there weren't enough microphones, so
gotcha.
I needed something. So between my banana shirt and my banana microphone, I mean, I could either get a job on Play School after this, or on radio. Radio maybe.
Please don't. My kids watch Play School, and no. So can you? What's the? I think you've got an interesting perspective as well. You're sort of riding the fence between AU, NZ, and the US in terms of your movement. I know you're back and forth quite a lot. What's the difference you see between those 2 markets and territories in terms of learning?
The US is a really cool place. And now that I know Marsh is on the call, I have to watch what I say. But the US is really, really cool. But for an Aussie or a Kiwi, there are big rocks that are different over there. There are fundamental differences in the way that the US rolls compared to Australia and New Zealand. And it's really nice sometimes to come home and just go, oh, space. Space is probably the big thing that I notice, especially. But the maturity of the US as a corporate enterprise and a corporate machine is so far ahead of where we are now. Aussies and Kiwis, we have a tech sector, and it's cute, and I mean that respectfully, because over in the US they have a real tech startup culture, and they support startups, and they don't have tall poppy syndrome like we do in Australia. They're very the whole land of the free and the land of opportunity. I believe I've seen that firsthand, and it's evident to a point. It's it's healthy to a point, but you can always over engineer, you can always overcook that sort of stuff. But I see some of the like the big bedrock pillars of organizations like Articulate, right? So they're ingrained in the US learning culture as a tool. Now, is that a good thing? Don't know. Is it an opportunity? Yeah. But if you're going to try and take on, like if it's a David and Goliath battle and you're going to go head on with the juggernaut, you're going to bounce off for a while until you've really make some inroads. However, if you're smart enough to sort of go and attack them a little bit from the side, or realize that it's not even worth, it's just let them do their thing and come in from a completely different angle. The US is super open and receptive to receiving innovative, new, fresh ways. And I think that's the key, ways of creating or delivering content. Because at the end of the day, if you can demonstrate option B is better than option A, and here are the outcomes, or here's the data that support it, you win. It's not an argument. It's more of just a time to show that what you're doing is working over there. But yeah, it's a really cool opportunity to dance back and forth. And Aussie and Kiwi language currency or accent currency goes a long way still over there. And I think it's really good that our countries are still on really good terms with each other, where we do have a really good reputation. We are still known for a lot of great things over there, and it's a great opportunity for any sort of design freelancer agency company to jump over there and have a crack, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a big old ocean over there, isn't it? Big old pond. Okay, a couple more from me, Steve. Any questions from anyone on the call? Does anyone got a question for Steve? His take on learning, tips, hints, any of the above? And while I'm waiting, I have to turn my phone off. My wife's calling me. She's downstairs, so I'm not sure why she's calling. Another one I've got. You talk quite openly about some of the tools you use. Slack, I guess we're probably pretty familiar with, but Miro, however I'm meant to pronounce that, and Gather. Gather's a really interesting one. Can you just explain what they are, how you use those in your work?
Well, just for the sake of my conscience, I have to credit my understanding and learning of Gather to the Jason Davey, as he was the one that introduced to me. And I will pay credit to Matt Bibby as well, who introduced me to Chameleon, because it wasn't until he just passing commented, "Oh, Chameleon." I'm like, what the hell's a chameleon? And then sure enough, here we are today. So yeah, I think that's really cool. But yeah, I think the tool set that we have access to now is weaponized. Like, it's dangerous. It's like if you get a learning designer talking to a non-learning designer on the right topic, it's like fire hose. You're like, we make you drink through a fire hose, because we just get so excited because we know the possibilities. So yeah, collaboration tools. We like Miro. We're using Miro for the LAMP program, just as a great way to collaborate. And just an example of like one of the interview questions that allows our lampies to have a little bit more credibility and show a little bit more experience is, we say, like, when you're in an interview, a great question you could ask the hiring manager is, hey, during the planning stages of an eLearn build, what collaboration tools do you use in your company to help with planning and storyboarding? Straight away, that just gives it puts me on the back foot and goes, hang on, this person's got a few years of experience already, to ask that question and have the confidence. So, that's an example there. But we were having a conversation today, kicking around the can around how we could learn a lot from marketing, and like using automation platforms, or something as easy as like email automation, like MailChimp. Yeah, if we look at MailChimp and we go, oh yeah, it could send out our email newsletter. Yeah. But at the end of a course, enter your email here and be enrolled in a 12-month drip email campaign that keeps you engaged and motivated, or checks in on you during the course of the thing. That's a privilege, right? bang in some text message, some text message tech like Twilio or anything like that, you're away. So yeah, we're not short of really cool tech. I think it's really important that we just remember who's going to be using it and whether or not it's going to either help or hinder the realization of the outcomes of the program that we're doing. Because if it's not, then pare it back. And we also talk a lot about the enough bucket for our learners and our clients. Like we will always want to go to the top of the pyramid, self-actualization, and throw everything we can at it because we know what's possible. But we always ask ourselves, what's enough for the client? When is the client reached the enough bucket, and when is the enough bucket full? Because as soon as it's full, that's when you stop. And if it's a cheat sheet, cool. If it's a cheat sheet on Google Docs where it allows you to tick the box and automatically cross that thing off, you can't underestimate the value of that. To us, that's like, that's cute. But to a client that's never used it before, and now that's changed the way that their team onboards stuff, and it visually fixes errors. Cherry, right? Easy. 5-minute job for us. In and out, done. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when you're using tech, just for the sake of using tech and chucking another tool at the whiteboard, then question it. But if it's actually adding value to that whole experience, and happy days. Jumping back to your point about Twilio and those marketing platforms, your MailChimps of the world, couldn't agree more. I think learning can take so much from the world of marketing. We certainly are trying to do that within the world of Chameleon, and what we're doing with some of our platforms and reporting and insights going forward, for example. But yeah, I completely agree. There's so much overlap there.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, we've got about a minute left. Does anyone have a late question before we tie this up and I let Steve get? I don't know. You get into some lunch, or have you already eaten today?
I don't know. I might go and walk around in circles. Work around in my office in circles.
Yeah, good. So if there's no late questions today, Steve, are you cool if we share your email address with everyone on the call? Is it? Yeah. Sweet.
Sure.
So we'll send that out afterwards. So if you've got any questions that you want to fire through to Steve, by all means. I think you've probably heard today he's got a pretty unique perspective on the world of learning, and it's quite refreshing for me to hear it. That's why I was so thrilled to have you on the call today, Steve, and dig a little bit deeper on all this sort of stuff. What's the time where you are, Marsha? Must be pretty late.
Yeah, Marsh, where would you? I have
9:44 p.m.
Oh, that's okay. I thought it was worse, Marsh. I thought it was much worse.
Yeah, so did I. I don't even know I called it out now, but anyway, I'm kidding, Marsha.
We just knock off about that time, right, Reese? That's knock off time.
Absolutely. That's when you and I usually talk. But thanks so much, everyone, for joining today. Really appreciate it again. We'll send out some notes following this. We'll send out Steve's contacts. I'll flick out a link to the LAMP program, Steve. I think that might be something interesting that the folks will want to have a look at as well.
Yeah, I'd love some feedback on it, or if anyone's got any ideas on how we can expand it, or wants to hang out and talk about sharing some knowledge with the crew, happy days.
By all means, yeah, for sure. But otherwise, have a fabulous afternoon, and hopefully see you next week. Not you, Steve. Well, of course.
I'll come. Yeah, I've been meaning to rock up for a while, but I've just been battling the space-time continuum. And yeah.
I hear you. So yeah, next week we'll see you. Any questions, fire them through to me as well. Reese@chameleoncreator.com. We've got a pretty cool guest next week as well, and the week after, so we'll be plugging those to you all shortly. But thanks so much for taking a bunch of time out of your afternoon, and awesome to see you all.